The only democracy in the Middle East. That's how some see it. But many others think it's a racist apartheid regime violating basic human rights. Not all Israeli Jews agree on what Israel actually is.
We have minority rights, which are protected legally in our basic laws. So, of course, Israel is a democracy.
I don't accept that Israel is a democracy at all. It's a very violent, very brutal, and very distinctly racist apartheid regime.
I'm definitely happy with the democracy in Israel. I think that Israel is far from perfect, has a lot of challenges that we need to overcome.
It is a Middle Eastern democracy. I wouldn't call it a Western democracy. So I don't know if I could compare it directly to United States or England because they don't live in the same neighborhood as Israel. But it is certainly a democratic state.
If we regard democratic values such as equality, multiculturalism, protecting the rights of minorities, and so on, then Israel is built on the exact opposite values. A political party cannot even run for elections in Israel if it denies Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, meaning if it denies Israel as an inherently ethnic supremacist state.
The intention to facilitate the, quote, establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people was announced in the Balfour Declaration issued by the British government in 1917. The State of Israel was declared in 1948, just a few hours before the British mandate over Palestine ended. 60 years later, in 2018, Israel passed a bill that defined Israel exclusively as, quote, the nation-state of the Jewish people.
The fact that they claim to be Jews, that they're doing it as a Jewish state, reflects poorly on Jews. Because if this is Jewish values, then what does it mean to be a Jew? It means it's a terrible thing. So they are not only harming the Palestinians, they're also harming Jewish people by creating this, by conflating what it means to be Jewish with what it means to be Zionist.
I am opposed to everything that the Zionist state, also known as the State of Israel, stands for. And I also think that it is totally opposed to Jewish values. Actually, Zionism in itself is opposed to Jewish values.
In the wonderful myriad and complexity of the Jewish culture, Israel is a very good representation of who we are.
Zionism is actually an ideology that should inspire other people to pursue their own self-determination, especially indigenous people.
The United Nations Security Council confirmed that Israel's establishments of settlements in the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including East Jerusalem, are illegal. To pressure Israel to comply with international law and end international support for Israel's oppression, Palestinians initiated the movement Boycott, Divest, and Sanction Israel, better known as BDS. Some Jewish Israelis opposing the occupation joined the movement.
I support the call for BDS. This is a call that came from Palestinians. It's a call that is principled, that is morally right, justified in every possible aspect.
Boycott movement is all about saying there's just one side. Let's not engage with Israelis. Let's discriminate a whole people based on their government. Let's say that because we disagree with the Israeli government, Israelis have no right.
That sanctions are, as a non-violent protest, are fundamentally a better type of protest than violent protests. So if I had to compare terrorism to BDS, I would definitely favor BDS. But at the same time, the problem with the BDS is that its stated goal is a right of return for all Arab Palestinians to all parts of Palestine, or historic Palestine. And that would mean the end of a Jewish state completely.
It would disproportionately harm Palestinians, but it also harms Israelis. And it doesn't ultimately bring any change. The issues that they have with the government of Israel or the actions of the State of Israel will not be resolved by boycotting Israel. The only thing it serves to do is divide Arabs and Jews further. And that's the last thing we need.
We are calling on the international community to show their solidarity and apply pressure on Israel, simply in order to make it stop its assault on the Palestinian people and respect their basic rights.
Israel is combating BDS and trying to build a good image through what some call a hasbara, a Hebrew word meaning explanation. The Israeli army is heavily present on social media, and the government is considering paying university students $778,000 to post pro-Israel messages on social media.
Well, Hasbara is the PR system that the State of Israel has put in place, the Israeli government has put in place, in order to mislead in order to spin, in order to tell their own version, justifying their crimes, justifying their racism, justifying their violence against the Palestinians.
If you read Haaretz newspaper, which I regard as the leading tool of Israeli propaganda, or if you read the articles about Israel on the New York Times and so on, you will still get a sense that there is something legitimate and something that seems normal about the way that Israel operates.
Why should we be explaining our indigenous rights? We should be proud of who we are. We don't need to explain.
More than 2 decades after the Oslo Accords, which brought hopes of peace and a two-state solution, the region is still turbulent and views are sharply divided.
From the UN to the EU to the Arab League, everyone really wants this conflict to continue. I think both sides should accept each other's right for self-determination and for to have a country of their own. I think that Israel was ready to do it. Israel has done it.
If you believe in the state of Israel, that means you're supporting violence and racism and apartheid. If you believe in freedom and justice and equality, then we must believe in a free Palestine and bring about the end of the Zionist regime.
Believe me, if it was up to Israel and we could have peace today and there would be no problems with the Palestinians and we could eat falafel together, nobody would be against that. If it was within Israel's power to fix, we would fix it.
Two-state solution is a difficult one, purely because we tried that with Gaza. And instead of getting peace, we got bombs. So Gaza is a very good lesson to us. Palestinian leadership treats its own people really badly. And when people are treated badly and given no choice but to fight, they fight. They have nothing to lose. I think it would be better if there was a more federation style of solution.
The very first step is to end Israeli crimes, Zionist crimes. The very next thing that needs to be done, and we are already working on that, is to build something that will respect the rights of all the people to bring about a better future in that land, because there is a lot of potential in that land.
So, Israel, a democracy or an apartheid state? What do you think the solution is for this region with decades of unrest?